Hey guys, and welcome back to another video. In my last video, I discussed what a design process is. In that video, I showed an example of my design process and what it looks like. Now in this video, I'm going to discuss why should you use a design process? Because I think the design process is probably one of the most important things you can do as a designer when undertaking design work. Now, in my 14 years career, I have realized that the design process is really important, and every time I undertake a project, I always use my design process. Now, if you haven't seen my previous video on the design process and you want to know what that looks like, I recommend you go check that out. The link is in the description. But in this video, I'm just going to touch on a few good reasons why you should use a design process. So the first good reason why you should use a design process is that it can avoid stress and anxiety. Now, anxiety and stress can be a creative killer. It can kill your creativity. When I was younger and I was an inexperienced designer and I didn't really work to a design process, in the early stages, I was typically wondering what to do and in what order. And I was stressing out about time and, how much time do I give to this? How much time do I give to that? And in what order do I do it? So, when I was young, I used to scramble around trying to figure it all out, and it just caused me stress and anxiety, and it made the whole process not as fun as it could have been, and I wasn't being as creative as I could have been. So to have a design process is something that you can always look to, so you know what it is you need to do, and it can help you, and it can assure you on the progress you're making, and it can completely take away any anxiety and stress, and you can spend 100% of your time being creative and thinking about the problems to solve rather than wondering what to do next. Which brings me to the next reason why you should follow a design process, and that is because it keeps you focused. As I was saying just now, if you don't know what you're doing, it can cause you anxiety and stress, and if you're working to tight deadlines, you don't want to waste any time, so you want to stay focused. So I find a design process really keeps me focused. So instead of scattering my light everywhere, I'm like a laser beam. And I know exactly what I'm doing, and I know exactly what steps I'm doing. I know the order I'm doing it, so as I progress through, I know what I've done, and I can take things off and move forward confidently, efficiently, and effectively. So this brings me on to the next good reason why you should have a design process, and that is it can help you with time management. So all those things I just said can really help with your time management. If you're working on a project with a small timeline, you want to optimize your time as much as possible. Now, I have a design process, and I like to think of it as a responsive process. Now, let's say, for example, I'm working on a project and I've only got 2 weeks to do it. Then I know exactly what I'm doing on the process, and I can allocate specific time to that section. So I might only give it a couple of days. Whereas if I'm on a project, which I have been on projects that might be anything from 3 to 12 months. Would you believe it? I've been on a project for 12 months, but that's very rare. But if I'm on a project, say to a month to 3 months, then I can just stretch out my design process and allocate more time to each part. Now, that just means that I can spend more time on each part. So maybe I might spend more time in the discovery phase, where I can explore more ideas and research, and just spend more time building and preparing for any creative solutions I do. And then maybe I can spend more time on the creative solution itself. Maybe I'll be able to do more work, expand more work, or maybe even if it's required, do more than one route. Now that does happen, but sometimes a client wants to see a few routes. So depending on the time, I will allocate a particular time to each step. So having a design process really helps with your time management. So the next reason to use a design process is it can help you organize your work. So when you have a design process, you know each part that you are effectively implementing. You have your discovery, you have your visual design where you might do some sketches and some scamps on paper, then you'll do your artworking, and then you'll do your presentation. Once you know exactly and clearly which step you're taking, you can use that to organize your work. You could use that to organize your file structure. So when you're working around a project and you've got your folder, your digital folder, or maybe even a physical folder, you'll be able to compartmentalize it and you'll be able to organize it. Knowing what you're doing just helps with organization, and I can't really emphasize organization anymore. I mean, I've become very organized. And again, like I was saying earlier, the more organized you are, the less time you have to spend worrying about things. Like, where am I going to put stuff? Where am I going to keep stuff? Where do I find stuff later on down the line? The more organized you are, you spend less time wondering and thinking about trivial things. You know, as a designer, well, personally, I like to spend 100% of the time just being creative, thinking about the problem rather than worrying about other things. So just being organized can really help you with that. And a design process can help you with your organization. So another really good reason to have a design process is it can help you think outside of the box. Having a design process, there are sort of checkpoints. And as I'm working through the project, it can just remind me that I need to think, need to take time to think, need to take time to explore, explore visual research, explore the project further. And the design process will prevent me from moving further down the track until I'm satisfied I have done adequate research and brainstorming. So a design process can sort of stop your scatterbrain. Now, naturally, on a project, of course, we can be a little scatterbrained where things just come out of nowhere, and that's great, and we make notes of that. But to keep on track with the design process can help with those steps. And one of those important steps is to keep you from going too far first. So it helps you to be disciplined, and it helps you take the time to do things like research and brainstorm and really take the time to think and think creatively about the problem and, come up with interpretations, creative interpretations from your research. Because this is the magic, guys. This is the magic that happens on any design process. The magic happens when you fully understand a brief, fully understand the context of a project, and then you look at it from different angles and you interpret it in creative ways, which can trigger interesting ideas, unusual ideas, unpredictable ideas. It stops you from, these sorts of things stop you from relying too much on design trends. So if you have a methodical process which guides you through all the touch points that you need to do, then you won't have to worry about design trends. You're going to look for that meaning. You're going to look for that substance that comes from the brief rather than just, arbitrary thinking. So another good reason why you should use a design process is that it can help you articulate your process. For example, when you're working with clients and you're maybe in an initial call with a client and you're talking about working with them, one thing that the client might ask is, how is it going to work? So if you're a designer and you're talking to your client about doing a potential job, one thing that can really install confidence in that client is leadership and taking control. And one of those things you can do to show leadership and taking control is to articulate your process. Tell the client how it's going to go. If you're able to confidently say to the client, it's going to take X amount of time, and in that time I'm going to do X, Y, and Z tasks, then they will feel assured by you and feel confident in you and feel that you are good enough to do the job for them. So if you can articulate and communicate your design process, it really helps. There's been many times where I've been on job interviews where the client has asked me questions such as, what is your design process and what can we expect from you? How is it going to work? How is this project going to unfold? Now, if you're not ready to answer a question like that, then it's not going to come across that well to a client. Luckily, in my experience, I've been able to answer such a question very confidently and clearly and communicated my exact process, told them exactly how the project's going to be, managed their expectations, and delivered exactly on what I said. Just installs confidence in the client and can help you get a good testimonial afterwards. So the last reason I would say why you should use a design process is it can really help just generate great creative solutions. Having a design process which you can focus on, which helps you keep on track, can help you do all the important things that you will need to do in order to come up with a great creative solution, such as doing adequate research, adequate brainstorming, adequate design, visual design, adequate sketching, adequate exploration, adequate discovery, and then adequate design, adequate artworking, adequate presentation and adequate delivery. It all helps you keep on track so you know that you're doing great things. The great thing about having a design process is that I will never move on until I feel as if I've ticked every box. And I don't tick that box until I feel I've done a great job on that. It's just a formula for success, guys, okay? When I was younger, I didn't really have much of a design process. And over the years, I decided that I wanted to improve on my workflow. I wanted to be more efficient and I wanted to be a better designer. So over the years, I perfected my design process and now I have a design process which I'm really happy with. It guarantees great results every time. And it's just something that makes me create great results every time. So that's it, guys. That's why you should use a design process. So tell me, what do you think? Do you use a design process? Is there anything you think I could have added to that design process? Do you have any thoughts on the design process yourself, guys? Tell me in the comments. How does it work for you? Do you find using a design process helps you, or would you rather just be spontaneous and not use a design process? Be sure to share your thoughts in the comments. I look forward to hearing what you've got to say and chatting with you. Now, as I said, in the last video, I actually showed my design process. If you're interested in that, don't forget, check out that link in the description. You can go over and check a bit more about that. Now, before I go, I just want to say that this is a brand new channel and this is all going to be about design process. On this channel, I'm looking to share my design process with you guys going forward. So if you like design process and you want to learn more about design process on actual projects, then be sure to subscribe to this channel because I've got lots more coming up and I can't wait to share it with you guys. So guys, I'll see you in the next video.